everybody. Welcome back to Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn. And joining me today is Brushy to talk about yet another defeat. How's it going, mate?
Been better, Carl. Been better.
Yeah, so we lost 2-1 at West Ham in controversial circumstances, but not going to buy Ten Hag's excuses. I knew that he was going to use the referee's decision or the VAR decision as an excuse after the game, but I'm just not having it. It's once again we fell victim to Michael Oliver VAR call. Everybody will remember the Manchester Derby last season, where Hoyland puts his arm around Rodri and Michael Oliver, the VAR, intervenes to give a penalty for City, and that type of penalty is almost never given in any other game. And today there's supposed to be at the start of the season, Hard Webb, the chief of the refs, set a high bar, quote unquote, for interventions by the VAR. That did not meet the high bar. That was a very soft penalty kick, and that was given by the VAR. Was not given by the on-field referee. Was in a lot of people's eyes a coming together. Um, even if you can make even if you make the argument that it was a foul, it's very soft. And United were not happy about it one bit. And but it's not Michael Oliver's fault that we are 14th in the league. And if we lose to Chelsea next weekend, which is very probable, we could drop to 16th in the league. We only get Michael Oliver now and again, so Ten Hag cannot blame him, can he, Brush?
No. Obviously contentious penalty decision, but I'd be hard pressed to even concentrate on that today, to be honest. Because in that first half, how we made it to half time, level is beyond me. The amount of chances we created, we should have comfortably put the game to bed. We could have been 3 or 4 up had we taken our chances. Some criminal finishing today. As much as we criticise the manager, questions have to be asked of those players today. The Dalot one, especially, ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely going to get into the missed chances, which is a common theme this season and the whole of Ten Hag's tenure. But
Hmm.
just to finish on the controversial decision, Laurie Whitwell, who's in the press box, was sitting quite close to Darren Fletcher and the Man United analysts. And Darren Fletcher, watching the game with the analysts in the stands, Laurie says, summed up the United feelings on VAR intervention. This is a direct quote from Darren Fletcher. One week it's a high threshold, next week it's not. Fucking joke. So yeah, that's what I don't get. That meet the high bar threshold. Uh,
Hmm.
West Ham didn't even appeal for that penalty, and it's decided the outcome of the football match, and it's given struggling West Ham a crucial victory. They've now leapfrogged us in the table. That's how fucking bad we are.
Yeah,
Um,
same goal difference as them as well. They've scored more goals, mind you.
and that's why they're ahead of us. Yeah, but who hasn't scored
Yeah.
more goals than United? I think.
Well, funny you should ask. There are currently only two teams in the league who have failed to score as many goals as us, and that is Crystal Palace and Southampton. And Crystal Palace, by the way, just picked up their first victory today.
Yeah, that was a very surprising win against Tottenham Hotspurs.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we are sinking fast. And you mentioned the chances we had in the first half, but this is just a common theme, as I said. Crystal Palace away is another example of that. Had so many chances to win the game and didn't. We couldn't hit a barn door at the moment,
Nope.
and
One win in the last five. Uh, back-to-back victories has become something we dream about these days.
yeah, and you mentioned Dalot missing the open goal, absolutely unforgivable, and he
Yeah.
had another dreadful display today.
Hmm.
Um, Somerville scored at the back post, and Dalot should have been watching him and wasn't, as usual.
Lots of calamities there. I think it was Garnacho, was it? That originally gave away the ball.
Yes, that's
Uh,
right.
yeah, from midfield, from back to front, it was absolutely dreadful. Just so many errors leading to that. Just gave Onana no chance there.
Yeah, it was an absolute comedy of errors, really.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's unfortunate as well because Onana, obviously midweek, he made that fantastic double save. Confidence is high. He's actually been doing quite well of late. And we spoke about that recently as well because we have been quite critical of him, and he's coming into his own. But then when the defense and the rest of the team do stuff like they did today, we don't really help them out, do we?
No, do you know what? We are edging towards another season where the goalkeeper wins the Sir Matt Busby Player of the Year award. That it's
Hmm.
another one of those really terrible seasons that are unfolding at the moment, unless something drastically changes. But yeah, talk to me about Diogo Dalot, Brush. How bad is he at the moment?
Ay, ay, ay. I don't really know where to begin. Yeah, terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. Just suspect all over the place. Obviously, offensively in terms of missing the open goal, it's criminal. But overall performance as well, it's not there for me. I don't know what's happened. And then we're so short on numbers that it's a position where we can't even like drop him.
Yeah, even simple stuff where he's just giving the ball away.
Yeah.
eh, It's just he's almost kind of lost his confidence. You you seen what he did against Spurs, where he didn't pick up Brennan Johnson, and then it was like apologizing before the ball crossed the
Mm,
line. That was just absolutely atrocious. The other night he was he didn't mark Ethan Pinnock either. He lost him for that Brentford goal. He's just having a real terrible run of form at the moment.
yeah, because I take the point. Obviously, Delit should have been there, right? But he isn't. But then, yeah, the way he just watched Pinnock. Ah,
Yeah, and the other night he allowed the Saint Maximin cross to come in for the Fenerbahce goal, and in
mm.
addition to that, he had a simple square pass to play to Hoyland or Rashford for a simple goal, and he bungled the cross.
And I tell
When
you what, for a lot of that game, I thought they were the far better team.
Fenerbahce, absolutely,
Yeah, yeah, because the
yeah,
way they were bopping the ball around as well, it was ridiculous. And what surprised me as well, you don't really get to see that often with Jose team, where they're that level of comfortable and just attacking. You know?
yeah. It was very much down to Onana that we got that point the other night
Yeah.
in Turkey. Quite a contrast between Onana's performance in Istanbul last year and this
Hmm.
year. But that is kind of symbolic of how he's improved in the last 12 months. Um,
Definitely.
but today was just a total disaster, not in front of goal and at the back as well. But we've seen this movie many, many times where United are the best team in the first half, but they miss a number of opportunities. Then, as a result, the other team grow in confidence. They eventually go 1-0 up, and then we lose the game. On this occasion, we got back to one each because we decided to start playing again, and then obviously the referee's call then resulted in us ultimately losing the game at the end. But Ten Hag can make all the excuses he wants. In the press conference, he was saying about Bruno Fernandes being sent off against Tottenham when the VAR should have intervened and overturned that red card, and I don't disagree with that. And today, it did intervene when it shouldn't have and give West Ham the penalty. And we're not getting the breaks at the moment. I understand that, but the table doesn't lie. We are 14th because we deserve to be 14th, Brush, don't we?
Yeah, it's the unfortunate truth. Because this has been a systemic thing all throughout the season. So yeah, but I don't really know today. My critique isn't as much with him because when I see those gilt-edged chances that we're missed, I'm like, what's he supposed to do really? If we can't finish that, then what point is there to anything? Garnacho on another day could have had a hat trick.
Yeah, he missed some really good chances.
Yeah,
And there's we've
there was a
got
Rashford chance as
a
well.
comment.
Bruno had a great chance.
He did, yeah, but he hasn't scored all season, and it showed today. Um, Filio P says, I thought when Rude was appointed, we would be scoring goals for fun.
Mm,
Shocking misses today. We actually played well first half. Once we go behind, we never look like winning. And yeah,
absolutely, we dominated that first half, and we really should have put the game to bed. And then you're going in at half time, and I've got PTSD from the other night, so I'm thinking, if we come back out and we concede in the opening 5-10 minutes, then our heads are going to drop, and the halftime team talk is going to go out the window. We lasted a bit longer than that, but again, yeah. In the second half, we let it slip. Their manager decided to make three changes at halftime. Lopetegui, and they set up differently. And it came in handy for them. We saw far more of an honor than we would like to in that second half. But I can't tell you, apart from Barnsley, which I don't even know if you want to count that. I can't tell you the last time we like dominated or controlled a game for the full 90 minutes.
Yeah, you could count in one hand the number of times we've done that under Ten Hag.
Yeah,
And
like we
we,
have spells, and it's great spells. Don't get me wrong, but then we don't capitalize on those spells and don't score, and then we get punished for it, and it's rinse and repeat.
yeah, I'm just so exasperated now.
Yeah.
And the inevitable is coming. It's it's a very very slow process when it comes to Ineos
Hmm.
and their decision making, but we all know what's coming. Uh, and James Rhodes of the Manchester United Muppeteers is a channel I watch a lot. He's been on here and hope to have him on again. And he's he gets a lot of info. And what he's been telling us is that do not expect a permanent manager in the middle of the season. Plan B, it will be Ruud
Hmm.
van Nistelrooy if they do indeed make that decision. So I hope that they do because something needs to change. Because we're just going to keep going along in this current vein. Um, of languishing in the bottom of the table, both in Europe and in the Premier League, and just winning now and again, drawing lots of games, losing heavily to rivals. We're just going to continue in this way unless Ten Hag is relieved of his duties. I'm not expecting Van Nistelrooy to perform miracles, but I'm hoping we will get the new manager bounce when he takes over. If we don't, then we're in serious trouble, aren't we?
Well, then it really is curtains, isn't it? Yeah. The way it's looking at the moment, I mean, I would love for the manager to turn things around, but that wouldn't be based on anything tangible of what we've seen. It's just a hope and a prayer, to be honest. Um, yeah, like you say, Kyle, I think his time is coming to a close. It's a ticking time bomb kind of thing. I think the main thing is obviously compensation wise. We heard the rumors about the 17 million and stuff, and I don't think they want to pay that. But historically, I think they've always inserted performance related clauses in contracts. I know going as far back as David Moyes, we did that. So that's why they waited till a certain time before they got rid of David Moyes, and they only had to pay like 1 year's salary or whatever. So I don't know if it's something like that they're waiting for. Um, Also, the main targets that they would want, uh, I assume, would all be in jobs right now, and it makes more sense in the summer than now. You know.
Yeah, I know last season's Dortmund manager and last season's Barcelona manager are two people who are available right now, but
Yeah.
they wouldn't be high on my list if I was
Hmm.
picking an ideal successor to Ten Hag. And maybe any of us feel the same way. I do, according to Chris Wheeler of the Daily Mail during the week there, um, the first Tuesday of the international break, Omar Barada and a team of United representatives went out to Barcelona to meet Xavi Hernandez. Very, very
Hmm.
interesting. But that obviously hasn't ended up in him being appointed, just like the situation with Thomas Tuchel.
Hmm.
Um, but they should be planning and preparing for the future and having these conversations. I think that is the right thing to do, because they know deep down that they're going to have to get rid of Ten Hag at some point, and they need to be planning for the future and interviewing lots of candidates and then deciding upon who's the right one. But I think the most likely thing is that the 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 managers they really want are people who are currently in jobs, and they'll have
Hmm.
to wait until May to get one of those. But as
Yeah,
some
that's the thing. Like at the top of my shortlist would be the likes of like a Simeone Inzaghi or a Xabi Alonso, maybe Ruben Amorim at Sporting, Nagelsmann. But these are all people that are difficult to get out of their contracts at this moment. It would be a summer type of signing. So yeah, it's about planning properly and knowing what it is that you want to establish, and then for people like Nagelsmann, it's probably very difficult to get him out until after the World Cup because why wouldn't he stay for the World Cup?
Yeah, what I think will happen is at some point, I don't know when exactly, obviously, because Ineos are very hard to anticipate, is
Mm,
because they've given Ten Hag so many chances already. Uh, at some point, they'll make Van Nistelrooy the manager to the end of the season, and
hmm
then maybe in April or May, they'll announce who the manager's going to be next season.
Yeah.
Because I think they'll be working behind the scenes and getting somebody to commit to being United's manager next season.
hmm
So
And even
I,
with the people I just named, Kyle, like when we go through them, like it's difficult because obviously, like Nagelsmann, he would probably want to see out the World Cup.
he will.
Um, yeah, Xabi Alonso. Well, after you saw what happened to Real Madrid yesterday, right? Don Carlo might be coming to the end of his term, and that's like a perfect fit in there, isn't it? Having played there as well and being Spanish, so you'd think there would be a shoe in for Xabi Alonso if they wanted to move in a different direction. Simeone Inzaghi, his team are going
Mhm.
to be in the Champions League, so what can we offer him if his team are competing and in Europe and domestically? So it would almost be like a step down for him.
Yeah, but he'd be paid a hell of a lot more money coming to Manchester
Mm.
United
hmm
than he will into Milan. We've heard this argument a lot over the years by players and managers. Oh, we're only in the Europa League. He's at a team in the Champions League, but they still come to United.
Yeah,
Um,
and then also I think now because of a lack of just certified managers, because all the greats that we know that they for one reason or another usually age related and whatnot, they're not viable options anymore. And then we have seen a little shift now where people are moving in different directions. Like the fact that Vincent Kompany's managing Bayern Munich highlights that. So now it's more about philosophy, say. So we could see a total random person as well. It might not be an obvious candidate that comes in.
yeah, yeah, it could be Thomas Frank. You just never know. You just
Yeah,
don't.
yeah. It could be McKenna. They might talk to Carrick. Who knows?
Yeah, you just don't know what they're thinking. It could be
Yeah.
something.
Look at the Brighton guy. The Brighton guy is what, 31?
Yeah, um, yeah. I would let him build his body of work a bit more before considering that one.
hmm
He's not been a manager very long. So
No.
to come
But
to
I'm
come
just saying, like, that's the variety out there where people are doing all kinds of different things. It's not like it was back in the day where you just look simply at the CV and just go for the one that's most qualified. Even though that does make sense, like, that's not how it works anymore.
So you mentioned the El Clasico last night, which Barcelona won 4-0 at the Bernabeu.
Yeah.
Um, I want to talk about both managers there because one, the victorious manager Hansi Flick was available in the summer, and me and several others had discussed him on this show
hmm
and as a potential option last summer. And it obviously, I looked up at the dates. I searched the dates earlier on, and he was appointed Barcelona manager 4 days after the FA Cup final. So
hmm
we were not involved in, you know, interviewing him because we were dithering, waiting to see what the result of the FA Cup final was before we made a choice. So you can be certain that he already agreed to become Barcelona manager probably before the FA Cup final. It was announced 4 days later. So we weren't even in the conversation because we were waiting to see how Ten Hag would finish the season. And that was
mm
stupid because the FA Cup final should not have determined Ten Hag's future one bit, as we've seen the way we've started the season.
And then they went on to
And
hold talks with Tuchel, didn't they?
yeah, and that didn't result in him being appointed either.
Nope.
Um,
And Hansi's part of an elite group of managers who've done a treble.
yeah, I mean, Pep Guardiola didn't win the treble at Bayern Munich, so
Yeah,
Hansi
yeah.
Flick's done something which he hasn't done. The so-called greatest manager of all time.
hmm
Uh, and what an impact he has had at Barcelona since arriving. So
hmm
again, it totally conflicts with this idea that you need time to, when you go into a big club, you need time. And people are still saying about Ten Hag 2.5 years in, he needs time. Well,
And
look at
also
the
the
immediate
experience
turnaround
factor as
last
well,
season.
because that's another one we hear all the time, Carl. We're like, oh, they got experience at the top level. What level of experience did Enzo Maresca have? Look what he's doing, and that was an absolute shambles that he walked into.
At Chelsea, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, at Chelsea.
unbelievable
Yeah,
stuff. Does
yeah,
help that he has
like
the
because
best player in the
because
Premier
they've got
League,
what
though.
like they've got like 45 players on their books, and he just said, "Listen, I've got my 22. That's who I'm choosing. I'm going to work with." Like he set his stall out. He's got a his own little philosophy that he's trying to implement. And look at them; they're fifth in the league, 17 points, only two defeats, I think. Yeah.
Barcelona were shambles last season, and Xavi, it was announced that he was leaving before the end of the season, and they were even knocked out of the Champions League by PSG of all clubs, and they finished well below Real Madrid. Real Madrid won the Champions League and the league. Uh, Hansi Flick is only he's only managed 2 months worth of games, and he's demolished Real Madrid on their home pitch. That's how immediate his impact has been, and they've been great in Europe as well.
Yep.
And he just destroyed his old team Bayern Munich there in midweek as well.
And when
So
you look at the amount of levers that they've had to pull and the financial restraints and stuff that they've had to deal with as well, it's all the more impressive. Um, you know, they couldn't
yeah,
even get two signings over the line in one summer. Like that's how bad their finances are, because they really wanted Nico Williams as well, and they ended up having to choose between him and Danny Olmo because they couldn't do both.
and Danny Elmo is injury prone and has hardly played.
Hmm.
Um, so they haven't even needed him.
But yeah, 10 wins from 11, only one loss. The goal difference as well, it's mad. 37 goals scored in 11 games. Can you imagine?
Yeah, and if we had a you know interviewed Hansi Flick in April, we could have got him and dithering another ten over Ten Hag,
Mm,
who's somehow still here. I said last December when we were thumped at home to Bournemouth, it was 3-0 and it should have been 4-0 because Bournemouth had a goal wrongly disallowed at the end.
hmm.
That should have been he should have been sacked after that game, and he's still here 10 months on, still losing games, and he's really really delusional and getting more and more so in his post match interviews. And today again, he he says he believes we will turn it around because we turned it around last season. What are you talking about? Is winning the FA Cup turning it around? You know, we finished eighth in the Premier League. How did you turn it around, Eric? Tell me, explain that to me. What's he on about? Can you tell me, Brush?
I haven't got a clue. I do not have a clue. And honestly, I'm not even sure if a strong cup run would be enough. I don't know if that'll be sufficient this season, but not that it looks likely anyway. You know, the way we've been struggling in Europe.
It's a very very small mentality to say to think that you've had a good season just because you won the domestic cup competition.
And don't get me wrong, it's wonderful winning trophies, but you need to start seeing more substance. And ultimately, the league is your bread and butter. That's where we need to, consistently
Absolutely.
try and to challenge. Ultimately,
But where does he get this idea from? Because do you see if you finished eighth at Ajax and you won the domestic cup, you would still be sacked.
hmm.
So where does he get? He's clutching at the thinnest of straws, and I just can't even watch his interviews anymore. I see the quotes on X. That's
Yeah,
how I know what he said, but I just can't
hmm,
bear to watch them.
yeah. And even
So
last season, especially now in our league, with the amount of competition, like you can't afford to drop points. You really can't. It's so difficult to claw it back because there's so many other teams in the mix. Like I keep reiterating last season. There was only 8 points separating fourth position from eighth, you know?
yeah,
So every point matters in this league. And we've got one win in five.
shambles.
Absolutely shambolic.
George here says, for once, Kyle, I am speechless. That is saying something, and I don't know what to say. It pains me to say it is this team and coach are breaking my effing heart. I am dumbfounded. Yeah, I think I become numb to it now. To be honest,
Mm.
I to see goes against us and goes for us. I don't even react anymore. I'm just completely indifferent. That's the stage that it's at now. I'm just kind of waiting on the Ten Hag sacking, and I'm not getting angry about it anymore.
See, even with that, like, it's not even something I'm like. I can't even say it's something I'm looking forward to because then that brings uncertainty too. Um, you know,
Yeah,
because they need to get it right. It's not just about sacking; you need to replace properly. So mm, it's all
yeah.
just
I think
it's all
what
just a shambles, isn't it? It's just oh,
I think what they're weighing up is what will result in a higher a league position.
mm,
Ten Hag to the end of the season or Van Nistelrooy to the end of the season. What will give us a higher position
yeah.
in the league? Because
And then ultimately, I think they are looking at finances as well. I think they're looking at the contract and all of that stuff, and that is also a factor in why they're biding their time. Because we've already
yeah,
seen the measures that the cost cutting measures they've taken, right? In terms of letting staff go, in terms of the position that Fergie had. So they're making a lot of changes.
definitely. And so I wanted to mention Angelotti as well. Quite often Real Madrid managers are punished for really bad results against Barcelona,
Mm.
no matter how successful that they've been. If they have a trophyless season, in a season where they've lost 4-0 to Barcelona at the Bernabeu, Carlo could be let go. Would you take him at United given his age?
No. I would love to say yes. I've got a lot of time for Carlo. If he was 10 years younger, absolutely. At this stage, I just think it would be very short term, and I'm not sure if he's the man to lead us anywhere at this moment in time. Although, given what we're currently going through, it would be very tempting to just say yes. But I think it would be like a Casemiro situation all over, Well, we kind of missed the boat and we jump in and we overpay, and then a year or two later we're like, we're stuck with this guy.
But let me ask you a question. If we bring in a project manager, a young manager, and he's there for 5 years, we win a few cups, but we finish the highest position in the league is second, and we don't get over the line. But we bring in Carlo Ancelotti, and he wins the league, and he's only there for 2 or 3 years. Which one would you rather have?
I mean, there's oh, if you if you put it like that, but then what state is the squad in after Ancelotti leaves in 2 or 3 years? Because if we capitulate like we did, like if it's similar to like Fergie's last title, yeah, then I don't know. I don't know because if it's that level of capitulation and there's aging players and there's a lot of stuff that needs replacing, it's back to square one, isn't it? As tempting as that title would be. Whereas with the project manager, ultimately the goal is sustainable long term success, right? So if we can see progress year upon year, eventually it's got to happen.
Well, I thought that about Arsenal, but it seems like it's not going to happen.
Yeah. This is the other thing though in this league, Carl. We have to keep in mind. It's kind of like entering a bodybuilding contest where you're the only one natural, and the people you're competing against are on steroids.
Yeah,
So it's very
yeah.
difficult to enter that. Where you're the only one eating clean and not on anabolics.
Well, according to them, they see it differently. I don't know if you've
Mm,
seen
I bet they do.
the Manchester City supporters group paid for a big sign to be put outside the Premier League headquarters, and it had the badges of United, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Spurs. And Man City and their fans refer to those four clubs as the Premier League cartel, and they're very much the bad guys trying to bring us down and
Mm,
not not playing, by the rules. But actually, it's you guys not playing by the rules. The 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 way they see it is that we're trying to pull every lever, every trick in the book to try and prevent them from being successful. Like, I don't know what they're talking about, because they they think the 115 charges are bogus, which I don't believe for 1 second. But apart from
mm,
that, to refer to those four clubs as the cartel is laughable because Man United haven't won the league in 11 years. Liverpool have won one title in 34 years. Arsenal haven't won the league in 20 years. Tottenham haven't won the league since the 1960s. They must be the worst
Mm.
cartel in the history of mankind. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, competing against. It's like competing against an athlete on steroids. It is a bit like competing against Justin Gatlin, the American sprinter.
Hmm.
Uh, but we need to find a Usain Bolt who can get us over the line and win that gold medal. Uh, yeah, and that's been obviously very very difficult. But I understand if I want to give Ineos, uh, I want to understand where they're coming from. It's that I'll go back to that Radcliffe quote of he would rather walk to the right decision than run to the wrong one. And that seems to be what they're doing in terms of the managerial situation. They're not going to bring in a permanent manager for the sake of it. They want to bring in the next permanent Man United manager is going to be one who they feel can win the Premier League. They don't want some kind of
Hmm.
short-term fix or someone who's anyone will do. He's a bit good, he'll do type of type of approach. They want to bring in an absolute elite manager to replace Ten Hag, and if they have to wait to do that, then they're thinking so be it. And I can understand that to an extent. Do you?
Yeah, it's one of those where only time will tell what they're thinking, right? But yeah, I think planning is the key thing for me. It's not just about chopping and changing, but if you are going to sack a manager, it has to be with a clear plan in mind of what it is that you're trying to achieve. Because I'm kind of sick of, obviously, with these guys, it's new, but I'm sick of this cycle of just chopping and changing every 2, 3 years, and you just tear it all up and start all over, only for the next man to come in and dismantle what the previous manager did.
Yeah, and I thought that Ineos were going to take charge of transfers and the manager essentially just be a head coach. Whereas, as we've said many times, in the most recent summer window, okay, Lani Yaro and Manuel Ugarte were definitely board signings, but the rest
Mm,
of them were Dutch centric signings again. And then we brought in these Dutch coaches again
hmm.
to replace the previous Dutch coaches. So I clearly that window was done with Ten Hag in mind, which I thought was a very, very
Hmm.
silly decision, considering things could go badly wrong and he'd have to be sacked. He hasn't been sacked yet, but things have gone badly wrong. And I think
Yeah,
that was a mistake. And Joshua Xerxes in particular looks like a very, very poor signing in my book.
I'll tell you what, credit to him today. Yeah, he made the substitution, he came on, and he got an assist.
Yeah, I suppose if you want to go on stats, he's got 2 assists in 2 games.
Listen, that's the
But
only thing I can clutch to at the moment because there's not much else.
yeah, not much else. His performances
And
haven't been
against
great.
Fenerbahce as well, he teed up the goal. For Ericsson.
Yeah, but even in that Fenerbahce game, he had he had a couple of opportunities to play Rashford in behind, and he
Yeah,
bungled both passes. Yeah, and sometimes his touch looks really off as well. He just cannot score a goal.
yeah. Listen, it's very unforgiving, this league. I wouldn't be surprised at all if at the end of the season, uh, his agent and him shoot back to Italy.
Hmm. Yeah, I've already seen rumors about that.
Yeah, I've seen paper talk of a potential loan in Jan, which I don't think will happen because we're so short. But yeah, in the summer, I can definitely see it.
And as I've said to you, Brush, I might have said to you on the previous show, and I'll say to you again in text messages that we should have brought in Danny Wilbeck in the summer and not Joshua Xerxes. He,
Yes, there would have been a time where we both hysterically laughed at that statement, but we're not laughing now.
no, he must be among the top scorers in the Premier League this season.
Yeah. Listen, honestly, we could do a lot worse. And if Johnny Evans is anything to go by, yeah, we absolutely should have snapped him up when we could have on a free. Yeah, he could have taught all the
Yeah,
strikers at United a thing or two.
fans talk a lot about signing young players. When you sign young players, but there's a lot to be said about signing experience. It's extremely valuable.
It is. It is. It gives guidance to the youngsters as well. So it's always good to have a mixture of the two.
And even the Man United team that Alan Hansen dismissed, saying that they couldn't win, you can't win anything with kids. That the spine of that team was extremely
Th-
experienced.
and that's what helped those young lads when they came through. The fact that you had the experienced heads there to keep them calm and to guide them through situations.
Yeah, yeah. Schmeichel, Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Roy
Hmm.
Keane, and Eric
Cantona.
Cantona. Yeah. So George here says, if we had of 152, I would have said, okay, good, keep it going, but show me more. Or yes, Don Carlo, I would take him in a heartbeat. Guys, great channel, guys. MUFC. Yeah. Thanks, George, for that. Yes, we. I think I agree with you, Brush, that yeah, we should have got Ancelotti 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
now wouldn't be the ideal time. But if it
No,
happened,
I think now the window's gone, and he's not the most tactically astute as well.
yeah, but he seems to be brilliant at man management and
Yes,
motivating
yeah,
players.
that's definitely one of his strengths. But this season, though, I think they've struggled because, and this is a concern I had actually, because obviously on paper, Kylian Mbappe is a superstar signing, but him and Vinny Jr. in the same team, they both occupy that left hand side, and I think that's coming to haunt them now. It will take them a little while before they find the right balance there. Personally, I
Yeah,
thought Erling Haaland was more suited to that Real Madrid team. Probably wishful thinking on my part as well, because I can't wait till the day he leaves.
yeah, I thought that before Mbappe went in there that was going to
Mm-hmm.
be an issue. So I want to bring you to a stat from Up to Joe, and I love these stats.
Ah, yeah, yeah. It's about to be something
Manchester
terrible, isn't it?
probably is. You know, Manchester United have the biggest negative differential between expected goals and goals scored in the Premier League this season. They have 8 goals, but have an XG of 14.6, which is the
Mm,
worst in the league. Um, you know, Worst ratio in the league. So it was basically means we're missing a whole lot of chances in layman's terms. But we know that because we're watching the games and we can see that.
mm-hmm.
Uh, Terrible, absolutely dreadful. I want to talk about a couple of individuals today. I thought Garnacho was lively and he missed chances, but he was trying to make things happen. But I thought Hoyland and Rashford were very lethargic today and were going through the motions. I wasn't impressed by either of their performances today.
Yeah,
Rashford was hooked, early in the second half for Ahmad. What was your thoughts on that?
yeah. I didn't have a problem with that. Ahmad came on, and the kid tried, but it was difficult in that second half. It was very difficult for us in that second half. We didn't see as much of the ball as I would have liked to get him on the end of things. But he's a positive player, Ahmad. And in the last couple of weeks, I've been kind of dumbfounded as to why we haven't given him more of a chance. If I'm being honest.
He was insulted the other night when Anthony came on ahead of him. Anthony gets injured and then he comes on after
Yeah.
89 minutes, and you could see on his face. I think like Van Nistelrooy and Rana Hack and a few of the coaches were trying to motivate him because he was
Hmm.
coming on after 89 minutes, and it was almost an insult to the player at that point. Um,
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised as well that Anthony, was the one that would to come on ahead of Ahmad. And then I think Ten Hag mentioned it was to do with training or something. I think Anthony
oh,
impressed him in
Anthony's
training or something.
training well, and he deserves his chance. He
Yeah,
he said that before this
yeah.
season. But you'd be hard pressed to find a fan who would rather have Anthony than Ahmad.
Hmm.
We can't all be wrong.
Yeah,
We know what's happening here. He's trying to give Anthony a chance because he's his boy,
yeah.
and he signed
And
him
the
for
trouble is,
85 million.
obviously, Ahmad is yet to sign a new contract, so that could potentially
Hmm.
turn into an issue for us as well.
I'm going to say it explicitly. If Ten Hag is still the manager at the end of the season, Ahmad will be gone.
Yeah.
You know, because he's treated him very, very poorly.
Hmm.
Um, for the last couple of years now, he has had spells where he's been in the team, but overall, he's not been getting many chances.
No, and
And
it was the same with Pelestri as well. To be honest,
yeah,
Pelestri got very, very few opportunities. Even in blatant matches where we were comfortably ahead, and we were thinking, oh yeah, this would be a perfect time to bring on Pelestri, and he just never did,
That
or
was
he did
even
late on.
he got even less opportunities than
Yeah.
Dalot. I noticed Pelestri when Panathinaikos were thrashed by Chelsea, but he scored in that game, Pelestri,
Mm,
and I've noticed him seems to be getting more goals this season, and that was an issue at United. He just couldn't find the back of the net during
hmm
his appearances. He didn't seem to. There was one of those Champions League games last season. I think it might have been Galatasaray away, where he should have scored and he didn't. But in a different league, he seems and yeah, I think for his country, he seems to know where the net is, but not for United. So I think that ship is sealed. I don't think he'll be back at Manchester United. But I just want to come on to what Mickey has been saying here. Let's be honest, he should have been sacked last season. I said that earlier in the show. FA Cup saved him. Give it to Sam Allardyce to the end of the season. It's going to get to that point because if we lose
uh,
any more games, we're going to be in the relegation zone.
I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not looking
no.
good. I'm not looking forward to the Chelsea game at all.
Mickey here says no chance he's managed at the end of the season. More chance of me getting a match on Tinder from a dime. Okay, interesting analogy there. Um, yeah, it is a complete and utter disaster. I think the goal difference is back down to -3 in
Yeah, yeah,
addition.
we're back where we began.
And yes, you mentioned the Chelsea game there. I like we've already been thrashed at home to Tottenham and Liverpool. I expect the same here against Chelsea. And if results go against us, we could end up in 16th in the league by next Sunday night. How do you feel about
We
that?
could indeed.
How, you know, let that sink in for a moment.
Hmm
Manchester United 16th in the Premier League. What is this 1973?
Yeah, the only team ahead of us on a worse streak at the moment is Newcastle. Newcastle have failed to win any of their last five, three defeats and two draws.
Hmm.
That's the only
Yeah.
one. But there's teams below us that have won two out of the last five games, which we haven't done. Leicester City and Everton.
Yeah, it's really tough at the moment to watch
hmm
these games and do these podcasts. If I'm being brutally honest,
Yeah, yeah,
because we're saying the same things
it
all the
is.
time, and I don't mind saying the same things all the time if we're winning,
Yeah,
but it's a total opposite of that.
well, that's
Uh,
the thing. But then games like today really grinds my gears, though, because you know uh, some of those chances, like I can't even put that on the manager. You have to score those at this level. There's no excuses. You have to take your chances.
yeah, the first half today was a exact replica of the first half at Selhurst Park. If you
We could have been 3-0 up inside 15 minutes.
yeah, we could have been 1-0 up after 30 seconds,
Yeah, yeah.
and Garnacho hit the bar. So we just look to be slow walking towards the manager being removed because they have no other choice.
Mm.
Might say it's going to cost us a lot of money. We don't have a lot of options
But
out there to
but
replace
yeah,
him.
with that though, Carl, like I say, keep an eye on any news regarding a clause regarding to performance. Because if that
Yeah.
exists, then they'll dismiss according to that, where they don't have to pay out as much.
Well, is he not still on the contract he was given originally under the previous regime?
Yeah, yeah, they've literally just used the option that they had to extend it for a year on his current deal. But historically, since David Moyes, there's always been a certain level you can't drop below, basically.
But I remember, for example, the Jose Mourinho sacking, and he was paid
Hmm
an awful lot of money when he was
Yes,
sacked,
I
and
mean
I think
he almost made getting sacked an art, didn't he? He just made it known like we know what his fee is. He gets sacked and he gets paid 50 million.
I know that that David Moyes, they only had to pay him 1 million, I think, because of a
Yeah.
clause. I'm not aware of that with any of the other managers. I think it
Mm.
cost them millions to sack those managers.
Yeah. I
But and
wonder
I
what the
think,
Van Gaal one was. I'll be interested in looking to look into.
yeah, I do think it was, it was quite a bit.
Mm.
He had 1 year left, I think, on his contract, and he even mentioned that he was going to, because of how they treated him, he was going to take them for every penny that he could. He did
Yeah.
say that in an interview. Um, so
And so he should, to be fair. He got done dirty. It's not nice the way, because he was barely lifting up the FA Cup when, uh, everyone was cheering Mourinho.
I don't think it was. I don't think Woodward did that deliberately. I joined the dots at the time, to work out how it got out. And my theory
Mm.
is that because of how Ten Hag treated Falcao the previous year,
Yeah.
Jorge Mendes, who's Mourinho's agent, leaked it to the press
Mm.
as Van Gaal was lifting the FA Cup to get his own back on Van Gaal. I think it was Jorge Mendes who did it. That's my theory anyway, and it does make sense. Um, you know, because yeah, it was Van Gaal who decided not to give Falcao a permanent deal at United, and I don't blame him for that, given
Yeah,
his.
yeah. I mean, he didn't really show us much, did he? And then he went on to have a horrible spell at Chelsea the following season before refinding his form at Monaco.
Yeah, and winning the league at Monaco with Mbappe in that season.
Yeah, it was he was part of that historic Chelsea Monaco team now that got utterly dismantled. The vultures circulated.
Yeah, yeah. Which didn't happen with Bayer Leverkusen, strangely enough. But they are
Well,
not
yet
yet. But and
I
they're
wonder how much of that is because of the unity and togetherness and the fact that Xabi Alonso is staying on. So I think when Xabi Alonso leaves, that we'll see more players willing to leave.
and he is going to leave at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Mickey here says if the season ended now, Johnny Evans is player of the season. That's actually madness. Clubs going more back than my hairline. Uh, yes, Johnny Evans would be a contender, but probably Onana because he's played more games.
Yeah, it would be those two. But again, it's a damning indictment that it's two defensive players that would be the standouts.
It is. Well, it's not going to be a forward, isn't it, for a team who doesn't score
Yeah.
goals?
Well, yeah. I go into games not knowing where exactly a goal is going to come from. Like I don't have confidence that I can just be like, oh yeah, such and such is going to get X amount of goals this season. I can't say that.
Mhm. Yeah, we've been relying on Ericsson as well to get goals, and we wouldn't
Yeah,
even have anticipated that he would be part of the starting 11. Never mind relying on him
yeah,
for goals.
yeah. And honestly, he's been a great performer. But how many of us were saying in the summer, like, oh, you know what, his legs are gone, he needs replacing. If we move him on, we're not going to be surprised. And he's become one of the key men with no legs, bless him.
And Ten Hag today opted for that his most experienced midfield again with the lack of legs in
Yeah,
Casemiro, Bruno, and Ericsson. And even though Ugarte had his best game for United against
at
Fenerbahce,
Fenerbahce, yeah, he was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And then we spoke some weeks ago about people uh, misdiagnosing the kind of midfielder he is and criticizing him for it. And then you saw the qualities that he offers against Fenerbahce. He's just very tidy, tough tackler. He's not going to cover the hard yards. The only person I feel that we've got in the squad that can do that is always injured in Mason Mount.
who?
Exactly.
So Ugarte was up against Fred and Amrabat, his predecessors in many ways. So he
Hmm.
had to have a good game, and he did. He obviously stole the ball off Fred for our goal, and then it was a miracle block from Dejan Tadic from about
Yeah.
6 yards out. When when you freeze frame it when the ball's arriving at Tadic's feet, you're thinking, certain goal. There's no way
Mm.
that doesn't go in. And somehow he makes like a John Terry style challenge to stop the ball going in. Brilliant, and he should have been rewarded with Man of the Match. another start. I imagine he's. I'm trying to get into the mind of Ten Hag, which is very difficult. He's thinking that he hasn't performed well in the Premier League so far, so I'm going to play him in Europe and in the League Cup and get him to build up his form, and then eventually I'll start him in another Premier League game. That's what I'm thinking anyway.
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's what he's thinking. But
So
I mean, listen, if he performs like he did against Fenerbahce, I think the fans will soon take to him.
yeah, so that's what we said last week. He needs
Yeah,
to be given time.
yeah.
Ugarte needs to be given more games, and then we can judge him. I know I'm judging Xerxes already. He has played more games, but a striker has to be judged on goals, and I don't care what he defines himself as. You know, we he you
But you know,
can.
when you go and identify the guy whose highest career total was 12 goals, what are we really expecting?
Yeah,
You know, someone
but
told me that he reminds them of a young Weghorst, and I was like, oh, I don't disagree.
but if Manchester United are signing a striker who can't score from 6 yards out, why are we signing him? I don't.
Because it ticks boxes, I guess.
Yeah, it should have been an experienced striker like Danny Welbeck or somebody else. The perfect person to have alongside Hoyland is someone who's in their early 30s,
Uh,
who's the record
Listen,
of scoring.
Welbs, somebody like Welbs definitely would have utilized it this season in the same
Yeah.
way that we have Johnny Evans and Christian Eriksen if he was part
and
of this team.
and in the past, Cavani and Ronaldo.
Yeah,
They
yeah. I think
those.
some have PTSD as well from one or two of those, where they were like, "Oh, why are we always signing people in their 30s? They come in the short term." But you know, if you do it in the right manner, they can provide a lot of experience.
Yeah, and it works at Brighton as well. When
Hmm.
Ivan uh, Ivan Ferguson isn't performing, they can play Danny Welbeck,
Yeah,
and you know,
and they've
for
also got João Pedro as well, haven't they? But Wells,
yeah.
for his hold up play, like everything, so yeah, he's very experienced now, isn't he? So yeah, they're reaping the
So
rewards.
if we hypothetically put Danny Welbeck back at United and instead of Xerxes, if Hoyland's in good form, then you keep him in the team. When he performs like he did today, then you bring Danny Welbeck into the team,
Hmm.
and you will get goals. But when Hoyland is being brought off for Xerxes, I think most fans have their head in their hands, thinking, "This is not going to
Yeah,
result."
I mean, I was thinking, well, he's not the one that's going to get the goal, but he could potentially tee up something.
And I suppose he did,
Yeah.
but he is not United level. I don't think this is going to work out. If he does, I'm be happy to be wrong, but I don't think I will be. And you said earlier in the show that he could end up back in Serie A. There has been strong rumors of that, and I could see that happening.
Hmm. Yeah, because
Juve,
his stock is still high there, and he's at a age, and you know, I don't think it'll be too difficult to move him on if it came to that. To be honest, it's not like he's one of our highest earners. You know, those ones. There's one or two that it will be difficult to shift, but he's not in that group.
and as I've said, we will more than likely have a different manager next summer, and I 100% believe one of the demands that he'll make is he wants an experienced striker who has a record of scoring goals and will
Yeah.
not want Joshua Xerxes. So I can definitely see him being moved on again in the summer once this
Hmm.
Ten Hag project is brought to an end. And I use the word project because Ten Hag uses it a lot. Um, trust the project. Don't,
It's a disastrous project, is what it is.
and that's putting it mildly.
Hmm.
So we have Leicester in the League Cup in our next game. Um,
Yeah.
I want to talk about a couple of slight positives. Harry Amos has been on the bench in the last 2 games, so that gives me hope that he might make his United debut in this League Cup game at home to Leicester.
Hopefully,
And that seems.
hopefully, it'll be lovely to see.
And
And
I
in
have to talk about.
pre-season, we saw Murray in pre-season, who looked decent. Yeah, some of
Yeah,
the youth players, I'm
and
hoping.
Say,
And I know you would have seen it on socials at the very least.
I know what you're going to say.
The young kid we stole off Arsenal, Obi
Obi Martin.
Martin. Yeah, yeah. He's out here scoring hat tricks in the first 15 minutes. I think it's probably a bit too soon, but if he keeps doing that, people are going to call for him to get some game time, get given a chance.
Yeah, I've seen those goals, and there's great variety to them. And
Yeah.
he is a massive guy for a 16-year-old,
Hmm.
and he's great feet. I would say he's going to become a first team player at United. No question about that. Um,
Hopefully.
not I would say by the time he's 18, he'll have made his United debut.
Mm.
He's he's 17 next month, I think. But yeah, he had a prolific goal scoring record at Arsenal's youth teams, and his first start for United, he scores a hat trick in 15 minutes. Yeah, he looks like an exceptional talent.
Yeah.
Shea Lacey as
If
well
he
doesn't
keeps
look like a great
working hard
player.
and keeps his head down, hopefully we'll see him on the bench at least in one or two of these cup games further in the season.
Or next season.
Hmm.
Shea Lacey looks like a hell of a talent as well.
Yeah, and
Um,
right-sided as well, Shay, which has been a problem area for us.
mm, what do you mean? We have Anthony in that position. He's just injured at the moment. So there were positives in terms of the future, but there's no positives in terms of the right now, is there?
No, not really.
Not many.
Not really. It's difficult. From week to week, we just don't know what to expect, right? So it's one of those.
From game to game, we don't know what to
Yeah,
expect.
exactly. Yeah. And every time we go into an international break, the pressure's going to mount even more. Yeah, no doubt in my mind, the next one's going to be the same. They're just going to be asking questions of the manager.
Yeah, I think he will make it to the next international break, and not
Yeah.
because I think he should, but because I know how Ineos operate at this point.
Hmm.
And then hopefully they'll push the button at that point and just give. As I say, they're going to weigh it up. Who's more likely to get us higher in the table, Van Nistelrooy or Ten Hag? Because they're
Hmm.
not going to get a permanent manager in mid-season that they want. So please, everybody, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, and get more of your comments in. And I reply to as many of those as possible. And I know it's difficult as a United fan at the moment, but I think these podcasts and these discussions do act as kind of therapy. And yeah, Brush, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yep. Same. I can't say the same for our team, but hopefully it'll be a slightly positive note next time. But yeah, hey ho, we hope.
And Sean here puts it very explicitly. We are
Yeah,
shit. Absolutely shit.
there we go. You should be a poet. I don't think you can
um,
put up the rest of the comments, but yeah, we shall leave it there.
yes, I think I'll just leave that one out. So I shall see you next time then, Brush.
Yeah, yeah. Take care.